What a huge win and a fun win for the Seattle Mariners tonight in Houston against their rivals. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. The Mariners defeat the Houston Astros tonight 5-3. They improved to 29-21 on the season. They remain in first place in the American League West. And now they look to maybe potentially take this series starting as we get tomorrow with Brian Wu on the bump. Apologize for the light bulb I think just went out here, so we'll get that fixed for tomorrow, but figure most of you probably listen to this more than watch. Anyways, before I go any further, as always, smash, hit, touch, whatever you need to do, that like button helps out the video tremendously. Comment your thoughts on the team and the game down below. And if you're new or lurking, please hit that subscribe button. I'm about 255 subs or so away from 5,000. Let's see if we can hit that here within the next week or so. I think it is definitely doable. You know, all kind of through my head throughout this game, and I'll get into the scoring recap, after yesterday, and yesterday happened, right? Happens. It was frustrating, but I don't think any of us thought Seattle was going to come into Houston and sweep the 4-game series, but they lose that one. Then tonight, the Mariners take an early lead, but Houston responds with 2 runs. Then the Mariners tie it up, and Houston responds with their 3rd run. And just throughout the whole thing, your mind's going just not our game. You get Cal getting thrown out at home on that terrible send by Christopher Negron. So nothing's breaking our way here. And you just start getting that feeling that it's just not going to be the Mariners' night. And then you start going through the negatives, okay, darn, now they've lost the first 2 games of this series. If they lose tomorrow, you're facing a sweep here and then, potentially falling out of first place. And then, oh no, best case is we win 1 game, we stay in first place, but Houston takes the tiebreaker and the momentum and everything. But now you win a game like this, now you can shift your mind to the positives a little bit. What if the Mariners win this series? Sometimes I think as Mariner fans, and I say it all the time in my videos, and again, it's not our fault, it's the team's fault, but we just naturally go to the worst case scenario with things. What if the Mariners win the next 2 this weekend? I'm still fine with a split here. Come in, that gets you a 7-3 road trip. You still hold the tiebreaker over Houston and they gain no ground on you in the AL West. That's perfectly fine. What if the Mariners win the next 2? One, that even solidifies your tiebreaker even more. In fact, it would put you at 5-2 against Houston this year, which would not be an impossible comeback for them to win the tiebreaker, but you'd feel pretty good that you're going to get it. It would put them 5.5 back of you in the division at the moment. And just kind of, there's no death blow you can deliver to anybody in May. Again, we all saw what happened last year, but it would certainly be a nice statement series win for the Seattle Mariners if they could do it. And now we can kind of shift to that mentality a little bit because of tonight's win. And then you go, okay, worst case scenario is no matter what, you're coming out of the series in first place. And most likely is you probably split the next 2 and you get out of here and there's kind of a no harm, no foul series. So now we can get away from the negative and shift a little bit into the positive here. Another key thing today before I get into the scoring, the superstars stepping up a little bit. Julio with the big double, and then Cal with the big home run, and Andres Munoz as always, right? You kind of your big 3 players that, listen, they can get contributions from everywhere, but this team's probably going to go as far as Julio, Cal, most of the starting pitching, and then, Munoz at the back end, Brash, Vargas, those guys are going to take in, and they stepped up tonight. There were other solid performances as well. I thought Emerson Hancock, again, had another nice game out there, but the superstars stepping up for you, and against a really good pitcher there in the 7th in Brian Abreu, who, crazy enough, has given up 5 earned runs all season, and all of them to the Seattle Mariners. Abreu is really good. You wouldn't know it by seeing his games against the Mariners, but that dude is almost unhittable as a reliever, one of the best in the game. So let's get into the scoring recap here. Starting in the top of the, well, that's the entire play-by-play. Let's get into scoring. Top of the 3rd, Leody Taveras homers on a fly ball to right field. That made it 1-0 Mariners. In the bottom of the 3rd, Isaac Paredes homered on a fly ball to left field. That scored Jeremy Pena. That was a bit of a Crawford box home run, should we say. It had an .060 expected batting average. But the Mariners got one of their own in the top of the 5th as Miles Mastrobuoni homered on a fly ball to left center field. That tied it at 2. I think Miles' home run was gone in only I know it's not called Minute Maid anymore, but I'm just going to call it Minute Maid. In Minute Maid. And then Paredes would have been out in Boston and in Houston. So, hey, you know what? The Crawford boxes giveth and they taketh away, right, for both teams in this one. So Masterboni gets his first home run. Bottom of the fifth, Christian Walker out on a sacrifice fly to left. That scored Isak Paredes. That made it 3-2 Houston. Top of the seventh, Julio Rodriguez doubled on a line drive to right field. That scored J.P. Crawford. Gutsy send there by Christopher Negron. Wasn't sure if he was going to do it after the mishap in the sixth inning. But the throws a little up the line. J.P. hustling all the way. Scored and tied the game. And then the very next batter, Cal Raleigh homers on a fly ball to right field that scored Julio. Man, Cal's not his last two because he hit that one in Chicago that wasn't necessarily crushed, but the one in San Diego and the one here, just moonshot home runs. I mean, that almost hit the dang roof in Houston. It was so high. And then gets it off the foul pole there. I thought it was foul. I didn't see it hit the foul pole. I think it was so high the camera kind of lost it. But the dumper, the MVP, hits his 17th home run. Yes, I'm sure it's still Aaron Judge, but I don't care. I'm hitting, slamming the table for our man Cal Raleigh. So that was all the scoring that happened in this one. Mariners do get mostly with the long ball, but then courtesy of the Julio double, do get a run on one that does not go out of the ballpark. So, just a game that really I didn't have a great feel for throughout it. It was just one of those games because every time the Mariners scored, the Astros responded. And when you're having games like that, it just feels like it's not your day. And then to turn around and get that win is huge. And that's a tough loss for Houston. I mean, they were talking about it in the booth after the game with Ryan Rowland-Smith, Goldsmith, and the Bone, Jay Buhner up there. And, you look at that loss, it was from a Seattle perspective. If that was a game in Seattle and you had Matt Brash or Munoz coming in the seventh inning and to give up that double and that home run and lose it, would be a big gut punch for the team. And the Astros may not have Abreu tomorrow. Certainly, maybe because I know him and Hader haven't thrown a bunch recently, but there is a decent chance that, Abreu could be down for that game tomorrow. Hader should be finally through like 9 pitches. But on the flip side for the Mariners, Munoz only threw 7 pitches, so you should have him good to go. Probably no Matt Brash tomorrow, but Spire good to go. Legumina should be good to go. So Colin Snyder. So you do have some options there as well. And you've got your best pitcher in Brian Wu on the bump, so you feel pretty good that he can get you through 6 or maybe even 7 innings there in Houston. But a really, really solid W. And again, I know I say this all the time. This is becoming a common theme, but a win for the Mariners because, now you can get that worst case scenario out of your head. And I don't blame anybody for having it. Again, we're Mariners fans. I bet you Astros fans have more optimistic views because they've seen their team win, consistently battle back, erase a 10-game deficit last year. So it's not new to them to be, in the trenches and come out of it. For us, we're just waiting. We're like, is this the loss? Is this going to be the one that's going to kill us? That White Sox game? Is that the one? Is that the game that we're going to look back on and go, yep, didn't win that one. That's why we're not in the playoffs this year. But, this team keeps responding. And I talk about the spiraling because it's something that this team has struggled with in the past. And it's something I do give Dan some credit for. And we'll see. There's a lot of games left. Maybe it ends up happening to them. But it felt like under Scott a lot that they'd lose games and then just it would crater a little bit. They'd panic and then they'd, everyone's up there trying to hit the 6-run home run that you can't hit. And then 2 losses becomes 3 and then 5 becomes 6 out of 7. Whereas this year, and yes, they had that one series against, the team that shall not be named, a couple weeks ago in Seattle, but they still found a way to kind of wiggle through that. And then they go and sweep a team like the Padres. So they're just kind of finding ways to not let it become that disaster that we've seen in the past with this team and see things slip away. Again, 100 and what game was that? Game 50? Wow, we've already played 50. That was game 50. Yeah, 29 and 21. Yeah, but I mean, even with that, there's still 112 left. So we'll see. But so far, so good with that. Let's get into the box score. Emerson Hancock, who actually gets the win here tonight. 6 innings, 9 hits, 3 runs, all earned, no walks, 3 Ks, 92 pitches for Hancock, 57 of them for strikes. I thought Hancock threw the ball well once again. 6 swing and misses today for Hancock. Still touching 97. Cal said after the game in the interview they didn't have a great feel for his slider, which made sense because there was definitely some that were way outside. But I thought Hancock threw the ball fine. And a couple things in his favor here. The Paredes home run was not crushed. not taken away from him because, again, the Mariners had one with Mastrobuoni that was very similar. And you play to the ballpark you're in. But, that ball is an out in every ballpark except for Houston and Fenway Park. So that's probably a fly out most of the time. In that fifth inning where Walker hit the sac fly to give Houston the lead, he actually had Yainer Diaz struck out. Now, a borderline call. Again, you're not always going to get those. That's baseball. But that was a strike on the 1-2 pitch. Ends up going to 2-2, then 3-2, and he hits him on the 3-2 pitch. That doesn't really matter. It was a ball anyways. Mariners been hitting a lot of Astros batters this series, it seems like. But and then he gets Walker to fly out and doesn't allow it to become a big inning again that spirals out. And, Walker puts one in the gap there or off the Crawford boxes or even into the Crawford boxes. And this game's probably over. So nice job there by Hancock to limit the damage, not getting flustered by it, and then coming out and still going with a strong sixth inning. So a nice outing for Hancock today. Matt Brash throws a shutout inning, no hits, no runs, no strikeouts, does walk Diaz. A little bit of a frustrating walk because he had Diaz swing and miss at 2 sliders way outside the zone there, and then 4 straight balls. That was a little frustrating, but then gets Walker to ground out. A tremendous play there by Ben Williamson. That throw was really good, and that's where you're seeing the value that Ben Williamson can add there on that throw across the diamond, because I don't think there's anybody else in the team that makes that throw there. So, Ben Williamson, I don't know if we've fully seen it. Like, I think there have been some little things he's done at third that Polanco certainly wouldn't be doing. But that play right there was a clear example of a play that Polanco's not making, Dylan Moore's not making, Mastrobuoni's probably not making as well. So nice job there by Ben Williamson and Matt Brash. Carlos Vargas just continues to get the job done, throws a shutout 8th inning, does give up 2 2-out hits. It's kind of been a theme this series, the Astros with 2 outs, doing some damage. Listen, the first one off Cam Smith's bat was hit hard. I think it was hit at like 104, but it was on the ground, an infield hit. JP almost made a spectacular play. Then you got Dubon doing Dubon things, getting his single into right field. That one was hit at 95. So, both were solidly hit. I'm not saying they weren't, but, nothing that made me go, oh man, what's Vargas doing? And then he gets painted to ground out harmlessly. Nice thing, as frustrating as giving up a lot of 2-out hits is, you're also still always 1 pitch away from getting out of that inning. So, even though we sit there and go, oh, come on, stop giving up all these 2-out runs and hits, at least you can go, okay, hey, still just 1 pitch away. So nice job by Vargas. And then, nothing else to say about Andres Munoz. Another shutout inning, 7 pitches, all strikes. Just business getting it done there. Made it look so easy. Probably one of the least stressful 9th innings in the history of baseball. A couple weak flyouts and then a pop up to second. Randy and Julio looked like they might collide there a little bit. I was like, guys, come on, give each other some room. But the Mariners get it done there, and Munoz should be good to go tomorrow. Let's move into the offensive box score. Mariners collect 10 hits along with 5 walks today. They do strike out 10 times. They do have the 3 home runs plus 2 doubles in this game, so half of their hits for extra base hits. JP was 2 for 5. His hit turned out to be huge because it led to the tying run. Polanco was 0 for 3 and struck out twice. Don't really get what's going on. Polanco was clearly scuffling, no doubt about that. But he did bat against a lefty, right-handed, flew out softly to center. So I guess he can swing the bat right-handed. But then Garver pinched hit for him later in the game. I really don't know what's going on with that situation. It's going to be kind of forgotten because the Mariners came back and won that game. I think at the very least what you need to do here is move Polanco down in the order. Because what's happening is, and I don't know why Polanco was able to take that at bat in the 5th inning, but not the 7th. But the way Polanco's scuffling, I'm not even sure right now if Garver's that much worse. But here's the thing. I feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Mitch Garver's had a ton of critical at-bats this year, because he had one there in the 7th before Julio doubled that, when it was 3-2 with 1 out there. And Garver always feels like he's up in these spots. Now, moving Polanco down and having Garver hit for him doesn't mean he won't have pivotal at-bats. It's not so much like, oh, the number 2 spot's going to always have a more crucial at-bat there. But maybe if you're putting in the 7th hole, then it's kind of like, okay, like Garver's hitting down there. It's not as big of a deal necessarily at the bottom of the order, because Garver in a 7 or 8 spot is okay, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't really matter there, but man, it feels like Garver's had a ton of critical at-bats. And I kind of feel for Garver a little bit because, like, as a strictly backup catcher and occasional, DH against lefties, he's been like okay. He's worked some walks. The slugging is completely gone, which does make me concerned for him. But like, if he was just your backup catcher, you'd say he's fine. But he's having to hit for a guy that's getting critical at bats, and that's made it a lot more frustrating. I think so. They got to figure out what's going on with Polanco. If this team was at full strength, I'd be like, man, just put him on the IL until he's fully back. But, they may be in a spot where they can't really do that either. I don't know. But it's weird that he had the one at bat that didn't. I don't know. I'll let Dan answer those questions, and maybe he did after the game. I just didn't see it. Julio was 1 for 5. It was a big one, the RBI double that scored JP. Cal 2 for 4 with the base hit and the 2-run home run, his 17th already this season. He's just not stopping. You just think, like, even in the series, he had some rough at-bats yesterday and early today. I'm like, ooh, is Cal in a little bit of a rut here? And he just continues to hit the long ball. Hasn't been nearly as streaky so far as we've seen him. He's always been a great player, but he does had moments where it's like, man, he's gone a while without a home run and stuff like that. This year, it's just nonstop bombs from the dumper. Randy Arozarena was 1 for 4 with a double. Rowdy was 0 for 1 with a walk. Dylan Moore pinched hit for him, was also 0 for 1 with a walk. I have no problem with Dylan Moore pinch hitting for Rowdy. I'm done with Solano. I'd rather just let Rowdy have the at-bats. At least there's some chance of running into one. But Dylan Moore makes sense. Dylan Moore mashes left-handed pitching. I have no problem with him pinch hitting for Rowdy Tellez. Leody Taveras, a real nice game. 3 for 4, 2 base hits and a home run. That ball was crushed. I talked about it when they acquired him. There is some sneaky pop that Taveras has. And Kevin Seitzer and Edgar said they see some things in his swing they think they can get fixed. Doesn't happen overnight. And, maybe starting to pay off here. Leody's starting to swing the bat a lot better for the Mariners and starting to actually be a bit of an asset for the team as opposed to just a depth fourth outfielder. So we'll see if that can continue. I'm not sure if he'll be in there tomorrow with a lefty on the mound as being a switch hitter. He may be. But yeah, Leody's starting to square up the ball a little bit more. And not only just the 2 home runs, but he had the double on Tuesday in Chicago. And he also had a pretty good fly ball yesterday in the first inning into the gap that was hit at like 96 miles per hour. It was caught, but it, got some air under it and pretty good distance. So Leody swinging the bat better. Really nice game for Miles Mastrobuoni. Obviously 1 for 2 with the home run. Also had 2 walks. So 2 walks and a home run. Really nice game for Mastrobuoni. Donovan Solano did come in for defensive purposes. Whatever. And then Ben Williamson 0 for 3 with a walk. And this one, like I said, did make that nice play that I thought was really crucial to get Christian Walker there. Just a huge win. Just a really huge win. Now we can go and look at the positives of this. And instead of looking at it from the negative, like, oh, well, if they lose this, oh, well, if they lose that, let's go win this series. Let's do it. Let's go win the next 2. You got your best pitcher on the mound tomorrow afternoon in Brian Wu. And you got Castillo going on Sunday against, I think, still to be determined because Blanco is out. Is it? What? It's not Blanco. Yeah, Blanco, right? Rinel Blanco is out for the Astros. And then you actually catch a little bit of a break. Hunter Brown threw on Wednesday. So you 4-game series and you avoid Hunter Brown is huge. And then obviously still no Yordan Alvarez as well. So now listen, the Mariners are dealing with things too, right? There's no Logan Gilbert. Yes, there was George Kirby, but it was his first start of the year. No Luke Raley. Not comparing those guys to Yordan, but the Mariners are dealing with injuries too. So while I certainly will always acknowledge it, you're also just not going to get a ton of sympathy from me on it. And that is baseball sometimes. A great win for the Mariners. Let's keep it going tomorrow with Brian Wu on the bump. Enjoy this one, everybody. Soak it in. Watch the highlights. Like, comment, subscribe. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.